Jesus and his cradle wisdom.
Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God.
Disclaimer: this video is for those who think, not for those who are indoctrinated in deaf, dumb and blind of reason beliefs. Visually depicting the absurd and outrageous interpretation of the Quran that our ancestors have given us is a legitimate means being utilized in this video. Please note that the ridiculing of the Quran in the way it is presented by the Bukharians is an act of blasphemy and not the slap in the face waking up from your stupor due to the ridiculous beliefs you have way I'm about to present this. If it waddles like a duck, swims like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it must be a duck, except the sheep and the devoid of wisdom scholars.
When it is said to them, "Follow what God has revealed," they say, "Nay, we will follow the ways of our ancestors." What? Even though their ancestors, and the ancient imams, were lacking in understanding and were not rightly guided.
I follow the Quran, and when I come across a verse that questions a belief held by all or a majority of Bukharians, then I have no hesitation in rejecting the falsehood. Allah will judge me, not Bukhari. This video is about the scholarly understanding of baby Jesus, who was said to have talked with his elders when a babe in arms. Words can have multiple meanings as well as metaphors, but when we have a forged hadith on the authority of men opposing and overruling the authority of Allah and His Rasul, then they can only have one understanding, and that is the ridiculous one. To reject the Bukharian hadith that have become indoctrinated in the hearts and minds of the deaf, dumb and blind to reason sheep is not easy, but not doing so means one has to reject the Quran. This is what they are telling us happened. The messenger babe speaks.
At length she brought the babe to her people, carrying him in her arms. They said, "O Mary, truly an amazing thing hast thou brought."
This is the verse that needed an explanation. Read corruption. So a forged hadith was shamefully invented in the name of the messenger. Conspiracies Against the Quran by Dr. Said Abdul Wadud dealt in detail into how those who were opposed to Islam could not convert the Muslims, so they converted the meaning of the Quran. These same people have been elevated to the status of gods, mullah god scholars as I call them, where most of what they have given us in their writings is believed unquestioningly by the hellbound cannon fodder Bukharians. Let us look at the Bukharian fairy tale that has been authenticated on the authority of a long list of dead witnesses, so must be true.
The Bukharian Cop Fable. Bukhari, Volume 4, Book 55, Number 645, narrated Abu Huraira. The messenger said, "None spoke in Cradle but three. The first was Jesus, the second was, there a man from Bani Israel called Jurayj. While he was offering his prayers, his mother came and called him. He said to himself, shall I answer her or keep on praying? He went on praying, and did not answer her. His mother said, O Allah, do not let him die till he sees the faces of prostitutes. So, while he was in his hermitage, a lady came and sought to seduce him, but he refused. So, she went to a shepherd and presented herself to him to commit illegal sexual intercourse with her, and then later she gave birth to a child and claimed that it belonged to Jurayj. The people, therefore, came to him and dismantled his hermitage and expelled him out of it and abused him. Jurayj performed the ablution and offered prayer, and then came to the child and said, O child, who is your father? The child replied, the shepherd. After hearing this, the people said, we shall rebuild your hermitage of gold, but he said, no, of nothing but mud. The third was the hero of the following story. A lady from Bani Israel was nursing her child at her breast when a handsome rider passed by her. She said, O Allah, make my child like him. On that the child left her breast, and facing the rider said, O Allah, do not make me like him. The child then started to suck her breast again. Abu Huraira further said, as if I were now looking at the messenger sucking his finger, in way of demonstration. After a while the people passed by, with a lady slave, and she, i.e. the child's mother, said, O Allah, do not make my child like this, slave girl. On that the child left her breast and said, O Allah, Make me like her." When she asked why, the child replied, "The rider is one of the tyrants while this slave girl is falsely accused of theft and illegal sexual intercourse."
Sorry for the content of the above hadith, but that's what was written for our education. This is what they say we need to understand the Quran. It is a Sahih hadith, so you must believe in it. It was thought by most that the talking baby was a miraculous act performed by Allah on Jesus, but now look at what the modern scientific age has produced. Bukhari and Muslims who have received the rudiments of Western education but have not progressed past the age of ignorance when it comes to religious beliefs and practices have produced a scientific explanation of the miracle of how Jesus spoke in the cradle. He was genetically programmed to do so. Please do not laugh and do not think that I have made this up. It is the latest discovery in the long list of pseudo-discoveries scientifically illiterate to explain the so-called miracles, but instead of taking the miraculous interpretation out of the Quran, they have compounded this with the ludicrous. Yes, they claim Jesus could speak as a baby because he had been programmed by Allah to do so. His wahi revelation knowledge had been encoded in his genes instead of him receiving a book like the Quran. The absurd idea says that no messenger had received a book like the Quran. They all had sayings, poetry or songs, or a few tablets of stone. The Quran is replete with information that all messengers received revelation, scripture, some of which were left in the form of books, but they seem to have missed this was parrot reciting the Quran, or more ashamedly, ignored these to further their satanic-inspired genetic discovery for Jesus.
And, surely, we gave the scripture to Moses, and after him we sent a succession of messengers. And we gave Jesus, son of Mary, Maryam, clear evidence of the truth, and we strengthened him with Jibreel. Yet, is it not the case that whenever a messenger came to you with messages that did not conform to your desires, you resorted to self-glorification? And some of them you called impostors, and others you killed or tried to subdue. Then God will say, "O Jesus, son of Mary, recall my blessings upon you and your mother. I strengthened you with sacred revelation, enabled you to speak eloquently to the people in childhood, and also at the advanced age. I gave you revelation and wisdom including the Torah and the Gospel. Recall that you told them that you would raise them from dust up into the heights of glory by my leave. You made people see the truth otherwise given to blind following, by my leave. You healed the wounds of iniquity on people by my leave, and you gave a new meaning to life to those who were otherwise no better than dead, by my leave. Recall how I prevented the children of Israel from harming you when you came to them with all evidence of the truth, and those who were bent upon denying the truth said, 'This is nothing but clear deception.'"
This verse and the following speaks in allegorical terms regarding the young, not baby Jesus. Here is the corrected rendition. The messenger babe speaks.
Later, she returned to her people carrying the child with her. They said, "O Mary, you have come with an amazing thing, breaking the rules of the shrine. O sister of Aaron, your father was not a bad man, nor was your mother a woman morally rebellious, nor did she ever oppose the system. Mary, the mother of Jesus, belonged to the progeny of Imran. She was a descendant of Prophet Aaron, the priestly caste, hence a sister of Aaron." Bhagya carries both meanings given at the end. Then she pointed to him. They said, "How can we talk to one who is in the cradle, a young boy?" In the cradle idiomatically means a young person. In 1931 he promises to establish the divine system and set up the just economic order. Can a child say that? But he spoke up, "Indeed, I am a servant of God. He has given me revelation and appointed me a prophet. He has made me blessed wherever I may be. He has enjoined upon me to establish the divine system and help set up the just economic order as long as I live. And he has made me kind to my mother, and has not made me haughty, unblessed. Peace was on me the day I was born, and the day I die, and the day I will be raised to life again." Such was Jesus, the son of Mary, and this is the truth of this matter about whose nature they so deeply disagree. Completed is the word of your Lord in truth and justice. None can change his words. He is the profound hearer, the knower. People will confront you with what the majority is doing, as proof of right and wrong. Now if you pay heed to, or get intimidated by, the majority of those who live on earth, they will lead you astray from God's way. Most of the people follow nothing but conjecture and they only live by guesswork. Only your Lord shows the right path and knows best those who stray and those who are rightly guided.
If it walks like a man, talks like a man, then it must be a man, unless you are a Bukharian. You sometimes have to do a double take when reading the strange beliefs we have blindly inherited from the devoid of wisdom ancestors whilst ignoring the wise one. Babies do not have divine revelation, have not matured to be not haughty or able to converse in deep philosophical terms about their lives, past, present and future, but that is precisely what the Bukharian tales have given us. Regarding the Cradle verses, Muhammad Asad in his Message of the Qur'an has this to say: although the Qur'an mentions in 346 that Jesus could speak unto men while yet in his cradle, i.e. would be imbued with wisdom from his early childhood, verses 30 to 33 seem to be in the nature of a trope, projecting the shape of things to come by using, for the sake of emphasis, the past tense to describe something that was to become real in the future. Since it is not conceivable that anyone could be granted divine revelation and made a prophet before attaining to full maturity of intellect and experience, Ikrimah and Ad-Dahak, as quoted by Tabari, interpret this passage as meaning, God has decreed Qadar that lie would vouchsafe unto me revelation, etc., thus regarding it as an allusion to the future. Tabari himself applies the same interpretation to the next verse, explaining it thus: He has decreed that he would enjoin upon me prayer and charity. However, the whole of this passage, verses 30 to 30, may also be understood as having been uttered by Jesus at a time much later, namely after he had reached maturity and been actually entrusted with his prophetic mission. That is to say, it may be understood as an anticipatory description of the ethical and moral principles which were to dominate the adult life of Jesus, and particularly his deep consciousness of being only a servant of God. Wise scholar, wise ancestor, why take the ridiculous ones only? Here is another wise one, a great Quran scholar of the 20th century, G.A. Pervez, who had this to say on the baby messenger. He explains further. Surah Miriam says that Miriam, along with her son Isa, came to the worshippers of the Jewish temple. These worshippers got angry because in their opinion she had given up a life of celibacy and was living a normal marital life as she had a child. In their opinion, this was against the rule of monasticism. Instead of replying, she pointed to the child, which was Isa, that he would answer them. At this, the priest said sarcastically, "How can we talk to someone who is inexperienced? He is hence beneath our standards." This makes the meaning of al-mad as cradle clear. This is the concept of the kalam fil mad, i.e. talking about the universal truths at a young age, towards which has been pointed in 346, 510. The reply that was given by Isa to the priest also shows that it was not a reply from the cradle, i.e. was not the reply of a child. Isa said, "I am on a mission of Allah. He has given me the book and made me a messenger." This shows that this is from a period when Isa has been endowed with messengerhood.
Angels said, "O Mary, God gives you the good news through a word from him. His name would be Messiah Jesus, son of Mary, held in honor in this world and among the ones close to me. In the hereafter, he will speak to people while very young and after attaining full maturity with his faculties well intact. Kalim, after attaining full maturity, after age 40, Sali, door of good, healthy. Then God will say, O Jesus, son of Mary, recall my blessings upon you and your mother. I strengthened you with Ru'ul Qudus, enabled you to speak eloquently to the people in childhood, and also at the advanced age. I gave you revelation and wisdom including the Torah and the Gospel."
The Quran Unchained.